You stupid bitch. Yeah, you're a stupid bitch. You stupid bitch. Welcome to another episode of Stupid Bitches Say What, the Aussie podcast about everything and nothing, but always with wine, and your hosts, Skye Cullett and Sean Hipkins.
This week, it's back in time. The episode where we literally go back in time. Okay, figuratively. Listen in while Sean chats about the historic events surrounding Julius Caesar, his accomplishments, his wins, and his women. Then I jump to another perspective and present my carefully researched facts about the legend that was Cleopatra. Was she a sibling murderer or just an owner of a lot of cats? Well, you'll have to stay tuned to find out, please. Meow.
She sounds a little bit like me, owner of a lot of cats and potential sibling murderer.
Well, yeah,
in the
I only
making.
have two. Yes, okay, totally. I'm picking up what you're putting down. So, what are you drinking, Sean Hipkins?
Well, tonight I'm going down a little different path. I'm not drinking the vinos or the bubbles. I'm doing a spirits night. And my so it's an absolute selection. And my first taste tester is Absolute Lime.
So you're just doing the baby bottles. When you said you were drinking vods tonight, I thought you were going to do the premix cans.
No, but I think if you remember, you got this, I think maybe for Vinny for Christmas, or you brought it round for maybe those New Year's drinks or something. I think so. A little collection of 4, or maybe Vinny got it off someone. I can't remember. But I've claimed it. And I thought I'll do a little taste test of some of the flavors. So this one's Absolute Lime, just mixed with your standard soda water. And it's not bad. I can't really get an overpowering taste of lime, but I usually drink vodka, lime, and soda anyway. So it just tastes normal.
Yes, of course. Well, when Linkstad came back from, I think it was New Zealand, actually. It might have been when he went to visit you guys. He brought me back a duty-free bottle of the lime, and I don't know if it was Absolute or if it was Smirnoff, and it was delicious when I opened it. But when I went to drink it like a week or 2 later, it tasted like shite because the lime flavoring, hadn't held up.
Yeah.
Well, I just think it's, once you crack it, the preservatives are gone and
it goes. No, that's disappointing. When we lived in New Zealand, whenever you come in with New Zealand, you get 3 litres of alcohol that you can bring in. Australia, it's 2 or 2.25. And we used to always get a litre bottle of the Absolute flavoured. And then just one night, we'd just make a big punch bowl. We may have done it when you were there, actually. And we'd just make a giant vodka punch and we'd just get shit-faced on it. It's great.
Because I brought a bunch of booze in. I think I gave a bottle to Sarah. Who picked me up from the airport. So that was Link's second cousin. Yeah. And then I brought the rest to your place and we just hit it, didn't we? We did. Pretty much got smashed with my
duty free.
What was in my 4-year-old son in tow.
Well, you got to drink the duty free while you're there so you can get more on the way home.
Yes. Oh, exactly right. Yeah. I wanted to get more.
And what, pray tell, are you drinking, you stupid fucking bitch?
Oh, look, I'm excited to talk about what I'm drinking, as always, because as you know, but listeners may not know, I am a massive dinosaur obsessed fan. I love Jurassic Park. I love anything dinosaur related. I can't really explain the obsession. Maybe it's because when Link was really little, he was just super obsessed with dinosaurs and I just really got on that boat. But I've drunk this before, but not on the podcast. I'm drinking the Land of the Giants.
Oh.
The Marlborough 2021 Sauvignon Blanc wine of New Zealand. And the reason I brought it is because it's got a cute little dinosaur on it.
It does have a cute little dinosaur on it. Well, packaging is everything, I say.
Super cute.
And Sauv Blanc is an SB as well.
Back. Yeah, it is a stupid bitch. You're right. But just full disclosure, I think I'm going to get shit-faced tonight because I've already had a drink. I had just a cheeky little seltzer at my work Skye or cyber drinks this afternoon. And then I've just been banging for a wine. pretty much all day because I went to the bottle shop earlier to get some wine for tonight, and I was like, geez, I could just crack that bad boy right now.
And so I did.
So I was making my notes and just waiting for you to become available online. So I was thinking the whole time, God, I just want another drink, and I restrained myself.
Well done.
But I feel like it's going to get loose.
I love that. And we've got the 40th tomorrow with Kate Bravo, which is going to get even more loose. Yes, but we're still in the challenge, which is why I thought tonight I'll partake in the vodka sods. And this little
But you're going to be a bit naughty tomorrow night, aren't you?
Yes, well, we'll be vodka sodaing again, but still being not having a limit.
I'm bringing our flasks to sneak those bad boys in.
Yes, I saw that.
So get ready for a little, put this to your lips, please.
I told Vinny, he just went, oh God. We get kicked out with flask in tow. Fuckers.
Oh, please. I'm incredibly discreet. I've never been kicked out for drinking out of a flask. Thank you very much.
But yeah, so how's your week been?
Look, it's been really great. It's very busy with work. It's Link's last week of school, so he's had some school stuff going on.
Holiday time.
We've been running around like pork chops. My mum got COVID, so she's been ill.
So it was COVID she had.
Hey? Yes, she got tested on the Saturday afternoon. So because she works in a hospital, one of the nurses came up to her and said, test yourself, Deb, you're not well. And she did, and so she was COVID. So lucky she didn't come, because she was going to come to the movie premiere. Oh my God, we have to talk about the movie premiere. She was going to come to the movie premiere and wear a mask. That's how much she wanted to come. Yeah. Until one of the nurses said, "Just test yourself, Deb," and she was COVID positive. Plus, so lucky she didn't, because she would have just infected everyone. Shit.
It was, what do they call it? A mega spreader event or something.
Yeah. Super spreader.
Super spreader.
So how's your week been, stupid bitch?
The week's been good. We had some exciting mail this week. Vinny got his DNA test results, and then 2 days later, mine came through as well. Yeah.
Yay!
So, well, actually, mine came through yesterday, so I haven't really looked into it too much, but I did want to share something that I was wetting myself over.
I'm so excited.
My results show that about 50% of my line is from England, northwestern Europe. With the rest being made up of Norway, Denmark, and Sweden, which, Viking. Was there any doubt?
Yes.
And then I have some Scotland, Ireland, and Wales in the mix. So, it was all a bit interesting. I'm looking forward to looking into it a bit more and adding it to my tree and shit like that. But Vinny's results are the ones that had me fucking in hysterics. So for those who don't know, my husband is Irish, and he was also excited to see where all his lineage was and see, what mixes are in there and whatnot. So his results came back through, and he is 10% Scotland and 90% Ireland, 90. So he, on his on his pie chart, it's just Ireland and then this little 10% of Scotland.
So you live in Australia and you have all these different bits making you up, and Vinny is just 90% Irish.
Yeah. So his whole fucking genetic history is pretty much Irish.
Oh my God.
I know. Well, I was wetting myself. He's like, yeah, we apparently don't like to travel. I'm like, oh, I thought there'd be at least a little bit of UK in there, or, well, England or something. But to say he was underwhelmed is an understatement. He was so looking forward to see the exotic places. He could be like, oh, I've got a bit of Morocco, or, anything.
I thought a little bit of Welsh. I thought maybe there might be a bit of Welsh in Vinny, I must say.
Yeah, no, 10% Scottish and 90% Irish. After thousands of years.
So did you expect, like, I know you're obviously blonde, quite fair. I completely understand that. But did you know that there is Viking heritage, like, in your background, or were you just waiting for the DNA to prove that? I
kind of knew, I'd heard that there'd been some Nordic, or is it Anglo-Saxon or Anglo? I knew that there was some of that part in there. That when we came down, and then they came down and conquered or invaded England and whatnot. So I knew that there was some of that history. I thought there might have been German in me, but
I could see a little bit of German, yeah.
Yeah, but no, that didn't pop up unless that's considered part of northwestern Europe.
Wow, that is so exciting. I so want to do it.
Yeah, it's good.
My mum is desperate to do it.
Yes. Well, it's funny because I was listening to the episode today, actually, because I'm behind, of when we talked about spitting in the vial and sending off the tests. And you were saying how your mum was dead keen to do it.
I've got to get it for her birthday, which is in August. So
it's funny because I think you were going to get it for her Mother's Day in the last one.
Fucking hopeless, aren't I? But I want to do it for myself because my dad, so my surname's Collett, which I don't know if you know is actually quite an unusual name. Like there's a few of us in Australia now, but it's not very often that you come across another Collett.
No.
And it's always different spelling as well. And when I was in grade 8, I did a research project and it was about, where your name comes from. That was back when I was, doing assignments that were set for me. Not just, fucking bobbing it off and writing 2 sentences and going out for lunch. And I researched it quite heavily, and it has French origins. And there's also a snake called the Collett snake.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, so a guy
French origins too. That's cool.
Yeah. So I'm very, very interested to see
what
mine is, because mine is from my dad's, obviously, and my dad is the one who comes. So my mum thinks she has American Indian, and I've tried to do a bit of research. So my mum's
I can kind of see that now. Yeah.
Yes, because they're all dark skinned, aren't they? And I'm not. I'm so fair.
Olive,
I get that from my dad, but the rest of them are all olive, and my nan's really olive, and my nan's father, so he was in an orphanage in Australia when he first came to Australia, and he doesn't know where he comes from. So I actually tracked down the orphanage and got a book sent to me, and they used to call him Blackie, which is completely, politically incorrect, obviously. Back in the day, that's what he was called. That was his nickname from a small child. And my nan believes that he came from America. So when they used to send orphans, like back in the day, they used to get a ship of them and send them over and stuff like that.
To work.
I guess. And for also like for families and stuff like that, and people wanting children, I don't know, I guess. But we believe that there's American Indian heritage.
Wow, that would be super interesting.
I know, right?
It's so cool how they can do it, isn't it? How they can pick up this shit. I think it's also a bit of a conspiracy in a way to get everyone's DNA on file, or some of it. But I'm okay with that. I'm no criminal. I just talk about criminal acts. But you can do this extra.
If you can make a court order to these places to get that information when there is a crime committed. I wonder if you can access it that way legally.
I'm pretty sure that when you send it off, there's like some sort of sign-off thing that you go into the register, they use your results and yada, yada, yada.
Wow. Yeah, that's a bit scary, isn't it? That if
but that's the same. Do you remember in primary school or even kindergarten when the police would come around and you'd get to, and they'd do a little demonstration or a talk to the kids, and then you get to give your fingerprint? That all goes on file and shit too.
I never did that.
I remember that in kindy, yeah. But they have this other thing with when you do it now with Ancestry, they've got this new feature where you pay extra, of course, but then they tell you some of your traits and shit. So I'm looking forward to looking into that, seeing how accurate that is. Like we had a quick look at Vinny's, and it's like based on your DNA, you wouldn't have a cleft chin, and based on, I mean, obviously it's shit that you know, but I think there's some more interesting pieces in there.
Well, not to digress again, but I have to say this because we're talking about it, but you know the story. I don't think we've ever talked about it on the podcast, but Tyler's cousins, some of the ones that you met at the wedding, they did a DNA test, and that was how Tyler found out that he had another brother living in New Zealand. So Tyler is one of 7 boys, and now he's one of 8 boys. Because his dad had a fling on the Gold Coast many moons ago. So Tyler always thought he was the second oldest. He's actually the 3rd oldest.
Wow.
So there's another one in between him and his eldest brother.
Yeah.
Who he has a different mum to. It's not Lee's kids.
Yeah.
But that was all from completing his DNA, and that's how they tracked him down. He doesn't really want to engage, though.
Well, see, that's funny because I was thinking too, I wonder if there's any family secrets that I'm going to find out about when we do our DNA, but nothing popped up. There was a couple of cousins and stuff like that, and then it tells you like you got a 4th to 6th cousin living here, there, and everywhere, which, it's not too interesting unless they're famous. We'd be like, hey, cuz.
No, listen,
What up?
millionaires.
Yeah.
Sup?
We're family now.
I'm your cousin like 3 times removed.
Yeah.
We can actually get married legally.
Yeah. Vinny sells. But he's got money.
Anyways.
Anywho, who went first? So I think, what was the
I
one
did.
before?
It was Ricky Lake. I went first last time. So it's your turn to go first, my love.
Yes. Okay, so let's get into it. So I'm going to do Julius Caesar. So who was Julius Caesar exactly? Did he invent the famous? Who was he? Did he invent the famous salad? Was the Cesarean section named after him? Or was he just a political dictator in a toga and laurel crown who was murdered by fellow politician Marcus Junius Brutus, aka Brutus, who considered killing Caesar to be a legitimate removal of a tyrant done for the sake of their country? Well, I can confirm that the salad was actually invented by an Italian man named Caesar Cardini, the apparent exact date of which, according to his daughter, was the 4th of July in 1924, so long after Julius's days.
I fucking love a Caesar.
It is a good one. And apparently it was made because he had American tourists in his restaurant and he had to just throw together some leftovers of shit. So he put in some bread, some leftover lettuce leaves, an egg, bacon bits.
That's the best way to throw together a meal and make it amazing.
It's leftovers. And the birth procedure actually existed long before he was born. As in ancient times, it would more often than not result in the mother's death during childbirth. So as Caesar's mother, Aurelia, lived a long and healthy life after childbirth, historians believe the term was definitely not coined on his birth.
But they don't know where it come from, really.
The Cesarean thing. There is something in there that I'll get
That's really interesting. That surprises me. I would have thought it was more recent than his reign.
Long time ago. But the leader part is true, though. He was the leader. He got
Yes,
killed.
I'm aware.
Born in July of the year 100.
He liked to fight. He liked to have some wars and shit,
He had a bit of power. So, and it's funny because when you see Julius Caesar thingies, he looks like an old man, but I don't think he actually became that old. But anyway, born in July on the year 100 BC, Julius Caesar would grow up to become one of the most famous and influential leaders of all time. His communication skills were able to gain the respect, adoration, and support of the Roman people.
He was a good communicator. Okay.
He was a very good communicator, very influential. Throughout his lifetime.
Like me.
Julius Skye. Throughout his lifetime, Caesar worked as a lawyer in the Basilica Julia, held the position of Pontifex Maximus. I love all the Roman fucking terms. So you like that?
Do you? I find it really confusing. Like I have to look them up every time and be like, what does this even mean?
Well, I had to Google Pontifex Maximus, and that means the chief high priest of the College of Pontiffs in ancient Rome. And he was ranked as an army general, defeating what were believed to be the unconquerable areas such as Britain and Gaul. Do you remember we were talking about Asterix and Obelix?
Vaguely.
Yeah, so that was, I can't remember why we're talking about them, but they were Gauls.
You're such a good researcher, aren't you? You just love it.
I do, little faxies. And he held various high-profile political positions within the Roman Republic.
Mm-hmm.
So during his rise to fame, Caesar became quite powerful and was vocal about his disapproval of the Roman Senate. Meanwhile, the conservative leaders of the Senate, including his frenemy, Pompey, decided to take action in fear that Caesar may stir up trouble for him. They ordered Caesar...
A lot of paranoia back in those days, wasn't
Yes, there was. And that was without the internet. They ordered Caesar to disband his armies and return to Rome to face prosecution following his rise to power in Gaul. However, as he was stronger and more confident than ever through his recent victories, there was no way he was going to face his punishment. In fear that he would be prosecuted for treason and live a shameful life, Caesar decided to rebel against Pompey and instigated a civil war. So Pompey ultimately fled to Egypt, where he was murdered at the time on command of the Egyptian king.
Okay.
Be quiet, Kitty.
The Egyptian king, so that probably was Cleo's dad.
At the time, yes, probs. So after
Yeah.
defying the Roman Senate's orders and winning a few major battles along the way, Caesar returned to Rome to proclaim himself dictator for life. Little did he know, though, he would be brutally assassinated by his so-called peers just 2 short months later.
Wow. That's a kick in the guts, isn't it?
Dictator for life. Well, kind of.
We'll see about that, won't we?
We'll see how long this life goes for. This exact moment would alter the course of history forever. The legacy of Julius Caesar very well lives on today, as he remains at the forefront of history books and as a prominent icon in pop culture, please. Some fun facts about our Julia Gulia. His first name is actually Gaius, and was the name of that.
Relatable.
Yes, and that was the name of his daddy and grandpapa. So where did the iconic Caesar name originate? So according to the ancient historian Pliny the Elder, the name may have come from one of Julius's great ancestors who happened to be born by the Cesarean procedure.
Oh, there you go.
So other interpretations of the name suggest that it roots from Latin words for bright grey eyes. Roots from Latin words for bright grey eyes or a thick head of hair. Another interesting idea is that the name Caesar stems from the Moorish word for elephant, hinting that one of Julius's ancient relatives may once have been killed an elephant in battle. May once
I thought you were going to say big schlong.
Was hung like an elephant. Hinting that one of Julius's ancient relatives may once have killed an elephant in battle. It's uncertain as to which of these is true, but perhaps Caesar favoured the latter, as he used the large animal in battle and even had his own coinage printed with the image of elephants.
Love elephants.
I know, they're a lucky animal. So as we know, Caesar had a love affair with Cleopatra, but he also had a son with her.
More on that later.
So I'll just touch a little bit on this area. So while Caesar officially had 3 wives, historians say he had many other mistresses and even male lovers. So it's hard to put an exact number on his relationship count. However,
maybe that's why Brutus hated him so much. Maybe it was a love affair.
Maybe Brutus, yes, was like, who's this Cleopatra bitch?
Yeah.
I was the elephant you used to love.
I was a little baby elephant.
However, the most days of our life / scandalous was his relationship with the Queen of Egypt, Cleopatra. This power couple met after Caesar chased down his enemy Pompey to Egypt. There, Caesar and Cleopatra formed a mutually beneficial relationship full of wealth and military power. Not long after, Cleopatra gave birth to a son named Cesarean, funnily enough. Following unrest in Alexandria...
I think it was Caesarean or something.
Yeah, it's got an I.
It's
got an I in there and shit, yeah. So following unrest in Alexandria, Cleopatra and Cesarean fled to Rome for protection. There, Caesar supposedly erected a gold statue of the Queen and never denied his paternity of the child. However, it is unknown if their love affair actually continued in the Eternal City. Following his assassination, Cleopatra and her son fled back to Egypt.
Yes, because the Greek hated. They didn't like her, even though she's, her origins come from Greece, which I'll get to.
I did not know that.
Yes.
So Caesar was adored by the people. So his death devastated the Roman people. He was beloved and adored by them. During his reign, he achieved many things to better the lives of the Roman people through making strides to reduce debt and unemployment. He proposed...
That's a bit like Goff.
Yeah, I know. He proposed new laws that redistributed lands to the poor. Very nice. Goff redistributed the lands,
yep.
And limited the amount of money that one single person could have on them at one time.
Wow, that's massive.
And that's also very controlling to ensure that no one was, I guess, in a position. Yeah. He offered jobs to the poor to work in Rome's overseas colonies and even
Very Goff,
and even granted citizenship to foreigners living in the Republic.
Very goth.
Yeah. Caesar also manifested various public work projects to benefit the Roman populace. He constructed a new harbour, canal, Senate House, and the Forum Julium, which you can still actually walk through today. However, their admiration for their dictator grew even stronger when they found out that he had included them in his will. He ensured that his villa, gardens, and art gallery were to be made open to the general public, and he left his riches to be divided between the people of Rome, giving a portion of his own money to each citizen.
Wow.
Nice. So it's easy to see why Julius Caesar was able to climb up in the ranks and become one of the most powerful leaders of all time. But as we know, Caesar was literally backstabbed by more than 60 conspirators, with a fatal blow being dealt to his aorta.
It sounds very political like in our times, except they don't kill you, right? But they do fuck you over.
Yes, totally. Look at all the leaders of the Labour Party. He was stabbed 23 times in total. This all
That's
occurred.
a crime of passion. That's not just I'm going to kill you and fuck you up. That's a crime of passion, that is.
Stabbing is very personal, as we know from our true crime.
And that many times, like that's excessive.
Yeah. And he wasn't dying from the first stab. Like he got stabbed 23 times and then in the aorta. So it was like a real message. And this all occurred in 44 BC at a public gathering in the theatre of Pompeii. So it was 56. I guess people were a bit more weathered back in the day, weren't they? There was no Botox to make him look young. So that's probably why he looks a bit older. By having so many people involved in the killing, it also prevented any individual person from taking the blame. So to make the story even more tragic, Brutus, the main conspirator of the assassination, was at one time a close friend to Caesar. This betrayal is a main theme in William Shakespeare's famous play where Caesar's last words are "Et tu, Brute?" or which translates to "even you, Brutus." To make peace with the public about the assassination, though, the conspirators exclaimed that Caesar was a tyrant and that they believed that the Republic should be ruled by many, not just by one. However, there was no convincing the devastated Roman citizens, and most considered those involved in the murders to be traitors. You can actually still visit the exact ruins where Julius Caesar was tragically assassinated over 2,000 years ago, marking the end of the Roman Republic. However, a lot has changed since then, as the same grounds are now home to a cat sanctuary. I wonder if that's any tie-in with Cleopatra.
I love that.
Yeah. So as Caesar's body lay lifeless in the theatre of Pompeii, his murderers fled. And just a few days later, Caesar's corpse was carried to the Roman Forum, where a massive funeral took place that was attended by grieving Roman citizens, still in disbelief over the death of their beloved idol. There, Mark Antony, Caesar's friend, gave a speech that enraged a fire in the hearts of the Roman people. This series of events sparked the Liberators' Civil War, in which Mark Antony, Octavian, and the angry Roman people fought against the conspirators of Caesar's murder. This war ultimately ended with the rise of Octavian as an emperor, which signified the end of the Roman Republic and the beginning of the new Roman Empire. So Caesar was actually the first Roman to become deified following his death. And deified is when they're worshipped or to be regarded as a god, like a deity, I guess.
Like a deity, yeah.
Deity.
As soon as you said it, I was like, oh, yeah, totes, I get that.
Yeah. So today you can visit the site of his cremation and see where the temple erected in his name once stood. Shortly after his assassination, a large comet flashed in the sky, leading many Romans to believe it was a symbol of Caesar's divine ascension into the heavens.
Wow, that's cool.
It's nice, hey? And in
I love that.
In ancient Roman culture, I don't want to say defecation, but deification. Deification, so deity, but the deified. So the act of
trying to say he's not a god. Yep, he's not godlike. Yep.
Well, that he is godlike. So in ancient Roman culture, the deification was one of the highest honors, and it was not given out to just anyone. And as I said before, Caesar was the first Roman to become deified in history.
Wow.
And that is the 3 pages I have on Julius, Augustus, Romaneus, Maximus, Caesarean Caesar.
Caesar. Wow, that's really interesting. I knew that he was loved. I didn't know he was loved like that greatly. So what we need to explore what happened to Brutus, though. I think, like, once he took reign, they must have fucking hated his guts.
I don't know if he did take reign.
It's hard to believe some of the historical stuff because some things are, left out and portrayed in a certain way, depending on who's writing that and who's in charge of, those facts and things like that.
Exactly. And, how much of it's been manipulated, #Bible.
Totally.
Yeah. So that's my Julius Caesar speech. Peace.
Wow. So we had no plans to do this in conjunction originally, did we? I was going to do Egypt and you were going to do the Roman Empire, and then it just came together and we decided to branch out, and I was going to do Egypt. Was like so massive. I was like, fuck, where am I even going to start?
Just do one part of it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and that was the same with this.
I chose Cleopatra and you were like, oh, I'm going to do Julius Caesar.
Fuck it.
Fuck it.
Yeah. But it's good. It's a good marrying of topics.
Well, mine's not as deeply researched as yours, of course. It never is. Mine's just the fun facts.
I like that too.
And I usually search, like in this occasion, I search Cleopatra for dummies.
I know. That's good.
I always do that. I like
that's
short,
a good idea.
snaps of information that I can just
not get too
there.
into it all. Just give us a roundup. Yeah, no, I like that. That's clever. I'm going to do that next time too.
And then I put my own bits. I do my own little researches off that, but I get the main, summary of the important stuff.
The body of it, yeah.
Yeah, the crucial.
Very good.
The highlights, if you will, the cliff notes, even.
All right.
So shall we parlay into?
Let's dive
our girl
into
Cleo.
The Egyptian goddess, really. Well, queen.
Yes, and as I mentioned, to be fair, I feel like I bit off a little bit more than I could chew when I decided to do Cleopatra because the information was so vast. So I did a little, primary school research. I think where I got most of my notes was like a module for primary school kids.
Well, look, we are just here to give an overview of stuff.
Completely down. But I have to say, she was a massive boss. I just think, what a fucking legend.
Back then
and,
too.
I encourage anyone listening to this podcast to send us in some facts that you have about the situation, because I'd love to hear more, because the way that I researched her and the portrait that was painted for me was definitely like, whoa, this bitch is just going to take over. She's just like, she was all over it. Yeah, she was a bit of a legend. She definitely had a hectic life. I'll say that. So to parlay into what you've just said, Cleopatra is famously known for her relationships with the autocratic, is it autocratic?
Yeah.
Leader. I'm already a bit drunk. The leader, Julius Caesar, and also Mark Anthony, who you spoke about, but also Mark Anthony is J-Lo's husband.
Yes, I know. I thought that when I said his name in this. Yeah. And spelled the same. Yeah.
Spelled the same. I know, right? So actually, I think he's Mark Anthony. Is he Mark Anthony or is he Mark Anthony?
Mark Anthony, I think. I'm pretty sure it is Mark Anthony. I think that's what he was going for when he. Maybe it's a stage name.
So she is considered to be a symbol of great beauty and female power, obviously. Yeah. She was the last pharaoh to rule ancient Egypt. She was born in 70 or 69. Yeah. And I'll get to that. 70 or 69 BC to the pharaoh, I'm going to try to pronounce this right, Ptolemy, but it's written Ptolemy.
Okay. Yeah. I would suggest the P is silent. Yeah.
Ptolemy, yes, I believe it is. Ptolemy the Eighth, a descendant of Ptolemy the First, who was the Sota of Egypt. I don't know what a Sota is. I'm sorry, I didn't research that. Her mother was believed to be Cleopatra the Tryphena, the king's half-sister and wife. And I'll talk about this in a little bit, but it was all very incestuous, especially in Egypt.
Yes. royalty.
You married, well, a lot of royalties about that, right? You married your
Keeping the
sisters
blood.
Yeah, exactly.
Just to interject, just did a quick search, and Ptolemy is the one who killed Pompey.
Yes. So it's all going to cross over as I go through some of my stuff. Her family ruled Egypt for over 300 years.
Wow.
She was mentored by her father. She was born a princess. She was her father's favorite child and would always accompany him on his duties as pharaoh. She learned lots of leadership skills from her father, and that helped her during her reign. She was also considered to be incredibly intelligent and witty. She's just a boss, mate. And she's fucking beautiful too. Such attributes enabled her to draw the attentions of emperors like Julius Caesar. She rolled herself up in a carpet to meet Julius Caesar. So Cleopatra was a go-getter. She never let...
She rolled herself up in a carpet.
Yeah. She wasn't really... She didn't get along with her siblings, right? So that everyone was always trying to one-up her because she had a lot of brothers and sisters, and she had the claim, she was like the I guess the most superior one that everyone was like, fuck, Cleopatra's gonna fucking ruin us. We're gonna like go after her. So she went after them basically. But so she was
did she roll herself in a carpet to be hidden and then go?
Yes. So she was fighting with her brother, who was also her husband, who was also the first. So Ptolemy, he must have been the 8th, I guess.
Yeah.
So he was civil warring, I guess, later on with Julius Caesar, but she and the brother had a civil war going on as well. So on such occasion was when, so Cleopatra was a go-getter. She never let anything come between her and her ambitions. On such occasion when Julius Caesar visited Egypt in 48 BC, at the time Cleopatra had a falling out with her brother Ptolemy the Eighth. Cleopatra had to think of a plan to secretly meet with the Roman ruler without her brother knowing. So this is when they were trying to come together. So she had this global understanding, well, not global, but, she had this understanding that she needed to align herself with people of power if she was going to enforce her reign, I guess. So she snuck out. So her brother was in power and she was married to him.
Yeah.
So she snuck out and had a secret meeting with the Roman ruler without him knowing. She took on the least suspecting trick. She rolled herself up in a carpet and got smuggled into Caesar's quarters in Alexandria, where he was staying. Cleopatra and Caesar soon after not only formed a political alliance, but a romantic one too, that bore them a son.
Cesarean.
So this is my favorite part, even though I dearly, dearly love my sibling and I would never do anything to harm her, but she plotted the murder of her siblings for power. She loved to be in power and she did all she could to retain it. It was quite common in those times for siblings to turn on each other for power. Cleopatra was no different. She was sent on exile by her brother and husband. So this was Ptolemy the Eighth, after her failed attempt to take over the throne. So she was the throne, sorry. They were married, but they were involved in a civil war between the two of them. Her brother, husband, and her were like, they were married, but they were fighting each other, right? So she had already formed the alliance with Caesar, who had a mighty army, because she rolled herself in on the carpet and said, hey, I'm here.
Burr.
Ready I am.
Yeah. Imagine when it rolls out, she's just like, oh, hey, what's going on?
Let's band together and, usurp my brother and husband. So Cleopatra won the war. Ptolemy drowned in the Nile River after being defeated in battle. So she killed her brother / husband with the help of Caesar. Or she I don't think she necessarily killed him, but he drowned in the Nile.
Yeah.
In 41 BC, she plotted the murder of her sister Arisone, a possible rival to the throne. Yeah, she had no time. She had no time for fucking people who weren't 100% Cleopatra. She was like, fuck you. You're not on board? You're dead to me.
You're out, yeah.
Literally, you're dead to me.
2 options. One, you roll with me, or 2, I stab and kill you.
Exactly. She later had her brother murdered so that her son, Cesarean, well, it's actually sort of said Cesarean. I feel like it's Cesarean. So she later had her brother murdered so that her son, Cesarean, could take over the throne after her. Cleopatra was not Egyptian. Although her family is she's famously known as the Queen of Egypt, she was of Greek descent. Her family lineage is linked to the Greek ruler Alexander the Great. Growing up, Cleopatra learned to speak, read, and write in Greek. She is said to have been able to speak 7 other languages, among them Latin and Egyptian. So she was fucking smart, mate.
And
she
what
was all
heritage?
over it.
Alexander the Great.
Yeah.
Alexander the Great.
Yeah, totally. And also of Egyptian royalty.
Yeah.
There you go. So incest was a common practice amongst the pharaohs. The pharaohs did not marry outside of the family. It was a common practice for siblings to get married to each other. Cleopatra's parents, Pharaoh Ptolemy the Eighth and Cleopatra V. Tryphena, were half siblings. After her father's death, Cleopatra married her brother, Ptolemy the Seventh, who drowned in battle, the civil war that they were having. She then got married to her younger brother, Ptolemy the Ninth, whom she murdered on return from Rome to make way for her son on the throne. So I feel like maybe she was married to a couple of them at the same time. Like she was just like bang, bang, bang.
Well, marry, kill. She was definitely a Black Widow, wasn't she?
100%. She was an expert in foreign policy. So this is where it all comes in. This is why she had this great vision of how she could align herself with powerful people so she could ultimately achieve what she was after.
Protect
she
her
joined,
reign, or her, what do you call it? The kingdom, basically. But
absolutely, she was single-minded, mate. She knew what she wanted, and no one was going to fuck that up for her. She believed in joining forces with parties she saw potential gain in, especially for her kingdom, Egypt. She went the whole 9 yards in ensuring that Egypt remained independent of the Roman Empire. She traded with Arabic nations in India, and she was successful in boosting Egypt's economy to a world power status. When it came to protecting her reign, she joined forces with the Roman Emperor Julius Caesar in the battlefield and had terrific wins. After Caesar's assassination, Cleopatra got married to Mark Antony, an influential Roman general. Yes, the union was beneficial to Egypt as a kingdom.
Wow.
Cleopatra's fashion and making an entrance. When Cleopatra made an entrance, there was no doubt everyone would pay attention. In 41 BC, she sailed off to meet with the Roman general Mark Antony in Tarsus. So this was after she rolled herself out on the carpet.
What's up?
What's up? She arrived at a golden boat decorated with purple sails and rowed by oars made of silver. The wealth that these people had, though, right?
How heavy would that be, too? The fucking oar made of silver.
Imagine all the people she would have needed to do her bidding and just be like, yeah, sure.
I got plenty of slaves.
With some silver oars. Yeah, let's do it. It's like a fanfare.
Yeah.
There were musicians on the boat to entertain her. She dressed up like the goddess Aphrodite, sat under an elegant-looking canopy, and was attended by ladies dressed as cupids. They fanned her and burned They fanned her and burned sweet-smelling incense. Mark Antony could not... Incest.
Ooh, the sweet smell of incest.
This was you the other week when you could not get a single word right. They fanned her and burned sweet-smelling incense. Mark Antony could not resist such charming elegance.
Yeah, that's some fucking statement, isn't it? You don't just swipe right on that shit. Yeah.
Yeah. But she was of Egyptian descent and she had Greek descendants as well. She would have been stunningly beautiful. Could you imagine the state of her?
Yeah.
To keep her skin soft, she was known for bathing in milk and honey.
Yes, I do recall that, yeah.
She lived in Rome. After Caesar returned from war, Cleopatra, together with her toddler son, went to join him in Rome. So their child together. So she left Egypt and went to live in Rome with him. Her stay in one of Caesar's palaces was not well received by the Romans, mostly because she was Egyptian. So, again, before the internet, unless she was running around proclaiming it and saying, I'm actually Greek, I'm actually like you guys.
Yeah.
They just thought she was Egyptian. So they were like, nah, we're not into it. It rubbed the Romans the wrong way when Caesar erected a gold statue of her in the Temple of Venus Genetrix, which is what you talked about, the statue that was erected by Caesar for her. and she was forced to flee after Caesar was assassinated in 44 BC.
Oh, that would have been chaotic time too, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and I think she would have had the foresight to just foresight.
Yeah.
The foresight to be, fuck, I'm out of here. I'm going home.
Yeah,
Taking my baby and I'm running.
Yeah. They've killed Caesar. I'm out.
She seemed like she was incredibly intuitive for her time, like just, really had her head switched on. So after she murdered her brother, Cleopatra appointed Cesarean as her co-ruler at the age of 3. So he was a bubba. Julius Caesar must have died when he was still very small because she was out of there, and then she appointed him as the co-ruler of Egypt.
And that's to also protect his claim to the fucking...
Absolutely.
Yeah, reign.
They did not last long in power as there was much opposition from Octavian, her adopted son, who claimed to be the rightful heir. So I didn't actually have time to research who Octavian's father was then. It must have been one of the Ptolemies.
Yeah.
Because... but it says like her adopted son. Something. So she didn't birth him because it was adopted. So, who claimed to be the rightful heir. At 16 years old, Cesarean was officially sole ruler of Egypt. He ruled while on exile since Octavian had a prize for his head. The tragic ending for Cleopatra, Anthony, and Cesarean. Cleopatra and Anthony fought against Octavian in the Battle of Actium at the coast of Greece. They suffered a terrible loss to Octavian. Cleopatra fled to Egypt on her ship with Anthony following closely. Before he could catch up with her, Anthony heard that Cleopatra was dead. He fell on his sword and died. The news was false.
Oh, wow.
So someone told him she already died and he loved her. That I know, it's so cool, right? And he was like, nah, fuck this. And he just killed himself. On learning of what had befallen her husband, Cleopatra became so sad. Soon after burying her husband, she locked herself in a room and was found dead. The cause of her death is believed to be through poisoning or a fatal snake bite. I reckon someone killed her. I reckon someone...
Well, I always do remember the theory that she clutched an asp and held it to her chest. And the asp being this, and that's a snake, and that's what killed her.
But she seemed too strong, considering that she'd lost Julius Caesar, who she had a child with.
She killed her siblings, all that shit.
She was pretty strong of will, I would say. I wouldn't expect her to be someone who'd be like, I can't go on. Yeah. Even though he obviously loved her desperately, because he killed himself when he heard that she was dead, even though it was false. So I'm not sure how I feel about that ending. I feel like maybe someone killed her after all the things that she'd done and set it up that way.
Yeah. Or threw a snake at her or something like that. Yeah.
Yes. So the thing I really wanted to touch on, which I've always found really most intriguing, is how many cats did Cleopatra really have? So once again, trusty Google, I just plugged it in and said, how many cats did she have? So there was a lot of answers coming back. The most reputable answer and the most allegedly accurate answer is that Cleopatra probably had no cats in the strict sense of the word. Cats were not owned in Egypt. They were considered sacred animals and were allowed to free reign. More than likely, there were cats lounging in the palace, and you could loosely say they belonged to Cleopatra.
Yeah, yeah. They just made home there. That's kind of like cats today. You don't, we don't actually own 2 cats. They're just here, and we just feed them and look after them.
You don't really own them. You just feed them. Yeah. I certainly don't own my cat. He has no time for me whatsoever unless I'm feeding him or he wants snuggles.
Yeah.
The unlikely responses that I found on Google was, how many cats did Cleopatra own? She had 14 cats.
And that's documented.
This is some of the answers that are coming out of Google. What was Cleopatra's pet? Cats. Did Cleopatra have cats? Yes, Cleopatra had a cat, and it meant a lot to her. What was Cleopatra's cat's name? Cleopatra loved cats and kept several as pets. Her favourite cat was one called Tavali. It is said that Tavali knew many things and was the emissary to the gods.
Oh, Well, they did,
Yeah.
as you said, they were highly worshipped and meant to be a very spiritual animal.
My favorite was, yes, Cleopatra had a cat that meant a lot to her.
Its name was Diwali.
The best friend.
Yeah, that's
Didn't
good.
stop her from the snake bite, alleged snake bite.
Alleged snake bite. Now that's been a really interesting episode because we all know about it. It actually makes me want to go and watch Elizabeth Taylor as Cleopatra now. I've never seen the movie, and I want to see something about Caesar too.
It makes me want to read like a book on her, like a, you know, like a good one, not like a shitty fucking non-fiction, like a story about her. Yeah. Like when you read stuff about King Arthur and Lady Guinevere and stuff like that, and you read like a fictional retelling of them, which I've actually never really read anything about. Actually, no, I'm lying. I did read something. I think Wilbur Smith wrote something about Cleopatra.
Well, Wilbur Smith wrote, he had Egyptian novels. He had a series of them.
Yes. I'm pretty sure Cleopatra was in one of them because I was massively obsessed with Wilbur Smith when I was about 17. Yeah.
I think I've read the first 4 of those books and they were amazing and just so clever. And it's about a eunuch slave.
Yes, I've read that one like too. That. Yes. I should go back and do them actually. I should buy like one of his original novels and start from the beginning.
I think it's called River Gods is the first one.
I've read River Gods, yes.
And it was they were saying how Egyptians back then too had like blonde hair and shit like that. Because I think the guy had golden blonde hair.
Because all through high school, I had this obsession with Egypt.
Me too.
Specifically the Nile. Like I was obsessed with the Nile because the River Gods talks a lot about the Nile. The Nile features as one of the characters, really, because
that's how they base their whole life
on the Nile, and people get killed.
The tides of the Nile and everything. Yeah,
they build their communities and everything like that. And I found it fascinating, but I haven't read it since high school, so I really should go back and
it'd be a fun journey.
Read them again. Yeah,
but I was obsessed with Egypt as well growing up, and ancient Rome and ancient Greece and all their gods and shit like that. Just fascinated.
Yes, me too. Me too.
But you know how you mentioned how she's related to Alexander the Great? There was a bit of info I found when I was researching the Caesar stuff that he actually, aspired to have as much success as Alexander the Great. I didn't know they were so far apart, but Alexander the Great achieved so much at such a young age that's what Caesar wanted to be able to mimic, basically.
Well, there you go. And did she know that? Did she know that about herself, or was it something that historians found out later on that her lineage goes back to Alexander the Great? Do you know what I mean? Did she like proclaim like, I'm actually Greek, motherfuckers? Don't like,
or did
not
she
let
not
me
know?
hear?
Because how does that get passed on? Yeah, just through word of mouth. Yes. Yeah. Well, thanks for listening to Stupid Bitches Say What Back in Time. We hope you enjoyed our trip back to pre-BC, please, on Julius Caesar and Cleopatra.
Pre-BC, there were so many mouthfuls of BCs. I was like, what time zone are we in? Join us next week as we do What's the Haps, where we cover some of the recent events that happened in June 2022. Don't forget, if you like what you hear, tell your mates and share, like, and subscribe. We love you, stupid bitches, all of you. Bye.
Bye, stupid bitches.
Yeah, that stupid bitch. He's a stupid bitch. What a stupid bitch. That stupid bitch.